So when I was 6, my dad got me working in his pub, bottling the shelves up, doing the redoing all the barrels and the kegs down in the cellar, and he got me emptying the fruit machines, or slot machines as they call them in America, the pool tables, counting the money. He'd even let me take the money at the bar, and I loved it. And he'd pay me £1 a week, and I'd go down to the local shop, the sort of everything store where I was living at the time. I was raised around East Anglia, Cambridgeshire kind of area. Okay. And I would buy the picture of a Lamborghini Countach, the picture of a Ferrari Testarossa, or the F40 or whatever, the Corvette, and I'd buy one a week and stick them all around my wall. And my dad would take me everywhere with him when he'd buy pubs and bars and clubs and hotels and all sorts, and always had loads of cash in his pocket. Was a right hustler, you know, could out negotiate anybody. It was a bit of a scrapper as well. Yeah. That didn't rub off on me, but and that was the sort of formative years of my life. And I never really thought anything of it. And then, you know, you go to school and you have to do exams, and you get into girls and you get into sport, and you're bored, and you do all your GCSEs and A levels. And then you look back and you're like, whoa, I'm nearly 25. I've gone through the school system, but I was 50 grand in debt. I was going nowhere, working in my dad's pub for 200 quid a week, but spending 300 quid a week. I was living still with my mum and dad in, in one of the rooms above the pub. And I didn't really think about what I wanted to do with my life, because every time I thought about what I wanted to do with my life, I realized I was doing nothing with my life. So it was more comfortable just to carry on working in the pub and bitch and moan about my life and be complacent and cocky and a chip on my shoulder and blaming everybody else. And then on December the 15th, 2005, my dad had this massive nervous breakdown in the middle of the pub. He was carving the meats. It was like 60, 70 customers. The pub was full anyway. I can't remember how many, but it was really full. My dad had the best carving restaurant in Peterborough. And he just stopped carving and he started shouting and swearing and getting aggressive with the customers. Then he started sort of squealing and gibberish was coming out. His eyes were rolling in the back of his head. He was foaming, and I'd never seen anything like it. And I grabbed him, and like the whole pub had stopped, you know, like when the doors swing open in a Western movie and everyone stops, and the whole pub had stopped. And I grabbed my dad and I was shaking him, looking at him, and his eyes were up at the top of his head and he was gone. I couldn't get through to him, and I dragged him out the front of the pub and I was, Dad, and I couldn't get any sort of attention from him. Within about 5 minutes, a police van pulled up, reinforced. 2 policemen got up. The near side one that I could see looked no older than 19. And they pulled out 2 batons and they beat the shit out of my dad. They beat him around the back of the legs, his back. They bundled him to the floor. They wrestled him down. They tied him up. My mum was there out the front, crying her eyes out. My sister was screaming her head off. And I just froze watching it all. And they arrested him, they sectioned him, and they put him in Ward 5 of Peterborough District Hospital. And they diagnosed him with manic depression. And long story really short, my dad had worked himself into the ground for 35 years, bottling up all of his emotions, never sharing any of really freaking hard upbringing. And he gave me everything I ever needed, bought my first car, bought my first house, paid for me to go to university, paid for my education, paid for my accommodation. And all right, I'd come back weekends and work, but he gave me every chance. And I was doing fuck all with my life. And this was the biggest rude awakening I'd ever had. And for about a week after that, I just beat myself. I hated myself. I blamed myself. I felt the shame. Felt like I was very heavily responsible for what had happened with my dad, put a lot of pressure on him, not done anything to really make him proud. And also the worst thing about that is December the 15th is my dad's birthday, and every Christmas he worked 6 a.m. till 2 p.m. and he probably worked on average 6.5 days a week. 6 a.m. 2 p.m. Used to have a sleep in the afternoon because he never got enough sleep at night. And strangely, that was the start of what you're going to describe as the middle part of my life. So in your description of start, middle, and now, I was born again, aged 25 years and 11 months. I went to a property network meeting, even though I freaking hated yuppies and, you know, people in suits, because I was just a twat back then. I was into, you know, Rage Against the Machine and hated anyone who was successful.
Can I just jump in there, Rob, 1 second?
Yeah.
You know, you say you worked a lot. You from the outside looking in, you're pumping out a hell of a lot of content and on spin a lot of plates. You didn't get a lot of that work ethic from your dad?
I get a lot of that work ethic because I'm scared of being a failure and going back to that place that I was at. And it's like I've got a new life. I'm 42 now. No, yeah, I'm 42. I'm 42 plus that, let's say. And I feel like I'm 25. I mean, I have days where I feel like I'm 60, don't get me wrong, but that's normal when you're an entrepreneur. You just deal with it. But I feel like I'm 25 and I feel like I'm born again. And I feel really freaking lucky to, you know, be an entrepreneur. We have nearly 150 staff across 3 or 4 companies that we own. 4 companies that we own, employ 150 staff. That's a freaking privilege. I've written 18 books. You need to update your bio of me.
Missed one off.
Yeah. Done hundreds of millions in revenue since, you know, my rebirth. Broke 2 world records for public speaking. 990 units it is. Again, not quite. I don't want you to think I'm exaggerating by saying 1,000. I don't want to put an extra inch on my length. So it's all good. But I feel like I'm just warming up. I launched my foundation a few years ago. I've raised 7 figures, give or take, for charities. And my foundation is to help young and underprivileged people start meaningful businesses that change the world. I don't really see it as work ethic. I see it as my life's mission and something that I get to do. And I want to prove to my dad that, not that he needs it anymore, but I need it. And I want to feel useful and valuable and do something meaningful and not fuck around with my life and waste it. So if you call that work ethic, call that work ethic. I don't really know what work is, Terry. I don't know what work is. I don't know what rest is. I'm not on and I'm off. I'm just, you know, me. And
are you 7 days, Rob? Do you do something every day?
I love to do something every day. Yeah. But some days I like to do it at my own pace and not the world's pace.
Yeah, you go to the gym stuff, right? You got hobbies. I know your son plays golf and things. You know, you do other things. It's not just work every day. You do a lot of your own stuff as well. Yeah, and look, doing content. I mean, if you call that work, fucking hell, you don't know what a real day of work is. A lot of my work is not labor. It's ideas, creativity, solving problems, sorting shit out, making a difference, making waves, growth, disruption, progression, innovation. That's all exciting. I want to do that. Like, if you list those words to me, I'll be like, yeah, I'll sign up to that every day. Don't need a day off on that. Well, that's what I get to do. So the word work is a bit of a paradox to me, really.